How do I bless my children to be a world-changing blessing to others? How do I do that? How do I get them out of the house with my blessing so that they can be world changers and bless others? I want to walk you through 3 or 4 very quick things here that will help us do that. Several quick things that I think will help us. One, we give them to God. We give them to God. As parents, our tendency is to hold on. We clutch tightly. When they're young, we try to control. As they get older, we try to even manipulate sometimes their decisions. And the truth is, for our children to move from dependence to independence as parents, they're through those teenage years, we've got to let go and let go and let go so that they can find their unique bent, their unique destiny that God has for them. And so as parents, one of the hardest things for us to do is to open up the clenched fists that we have with our kids and say, I'm going to let them go. I'm going to put them in God's hands and let Him take control of my children. Like Abraham with his son Isaac, God is calling us to put our kids on the altar. When my son Scott was 2, one day I was responsible for keeping him, and he disappeared on me. He escaped. He ran out the door into the yard, and when I finally found him, he was in the middle of the street. I ran out there and grabbed him out of the middle of the street, put him up under my arm, and about the time I walked back into our house, I broke into a cold sweat. And for about 2 or 3 weeks after that, I was absolutely frightened to death for my son's safety. I was scared to death that those buses that came, city buses that came down our street about every 30 minutes at about 40 miles an hour, he would get out, and one day one of those buses would roll over him. And it absolutely frightened me. And then about that time, I was reading a book by A.W. Tozer called The Pursuit of God. And he was expounding on this story of Abraham and Isaac, and Abraham putting his son Isaac on the altar. And he made this one statement that absolutely gripped me. He who possesses nothing owns everything. He who possesses nothing owns everything. Right there, I knelt down on my knees and I said, God, here's my son. I put him on the altar before you. I ask you to keep him safe. I ask you to protect him. I ask you to take hold of him. And immediately it was like a big blanket was lifted off of me. And there was a great peace that came over me. And in an amazing turn of events, and for no apparent reason, those city buses quit coming down our street a week later. If we're going to bless our kids to be a blessing to others, then one of the things that we have to do is to put them on the altar, to let go of them